Welcome to our class in Chassidus. We've been learning a beautiful Chassidic discourse from the Rebbe. The name of the Chassidic discourse is called Viamer L'Yoneson. The Rebbe said this Chassidic discourse in Shabbos Parashat Shmini. That Shabbat was the Shabbos that blessed the month of Iyer, and it was also Erev Rosh Chodesh Iyer in the year Tavshin Chavches. They ever went on to certify and edit this Chassidic discourse in honor of the second day of the month of Iyer in the year Tavshin Nun Aleph 34 years ago. So the Chassidic discourse is based on the verse in the prophets, which is also the Haftarah that we read on Machar Chodesh. So it says, "Vayomer L'Yoneson," and Yonatan told him, "Machar Chodesh, tomorrow's Chodesh. Venifkדת, you're going to be remembered," referring to King David. Ki yipaked moshevecha, because your seat is going to be empty. So the Rebbe brings from the Rebbe Barash, who is celebrating his birthday on the second day of the month of Iyer, in a classical Chassidic discourse on this verse, that Rashi says, "Venifkדת." What does Nifkדת mean? Nifkדת means is an expression of zikaron, to be remembered. Yipaked means it's going to be missing, and Nifkדת ki yipaked meshvacho is through the fact that yipaked, it's going to be missing. What's going to be missing? The seat of David is going to be empty. Through that, Venifkדת, you're going to remember it. You're going to remember it upon it. And he continues on the Chassidic discourse. The reason that Venifkדת, it says Venifkדת, it doesn't say Veniskarta, you're going to be remembered. It's the same meaning, but it doesn't say the term Veniskarta, because Venifkדת is also an idea of union, unified. Like the Chazal tell us that before a person leaves out of town, you have to be unified with your spouse. Why is that? Because Shaul HaMelech is Bina. The king at that time was the father of Yonatan was Shaul, and he's the level of Bina. And like it says, Shaul comes from Rechavis Hanar, which means that he's Bina, which is the source of the Midos of Zah. Like it says in reference, Mi Bara Ela. So Mi is Bina, and which is the source of Ela of the Midos. And so Shaul's Bina. King David is Malchus. And that's why he says, Venifkדת, that Shaul is gonna he's is David. In other words, it's going to be the union of the six midos, which comes from Bina, which is Shaul, and Malchus David. And that Shaul's Yifked is David, which means Shaul's Bina, which the midos come from there, and King David is Malchus, which basically is the unification of what? Zah and Malchus. And that's the expression of Nifkדת, ki yipaked moshevecha, together with Machar Chodesh. Why? Because on Erev Rosh Chodesh, what happens on Erev Rosh Chodesh? There's no moon. It's totally concealed. Up till literally right before it's born, there's only like maybe a dot left over. But what happens afterwards? Machar Chodesh, you have the birth of the new moon, and then you have the unification of the sun and the moon. And the same thing also with Malchus. Basically, as we know, Malchus is the source of the moon, and through the fact that Yipaked moshevecha, that King David's going to be missing, which means Malchus not be there, through that there's going to be the Venifkדת, you can have the union of Malchus together with Zah. And seemingly you can add that this then Rosh Chodesh, what happens? You have the union of the sun, which is the Zer Ampim, which is the Midos, and the moon, which is basically Malchus, which means basically that in the sun, which is Zah, comes in from a higher place of the sun, which is basically Keser above Ashtalshlus, and that creates the union, like the verse says, with the crown that the mother made him on the day of his marriage. And it means in order to have the union of Zah and Malchus, the day of the marriage, is by bringing in a crown, which is Keter, and bringing in Keter to Zah, and to the 6 minutes on the day of the marriage. How does that happen? Through Bina, which basically Atar Shat L'Yom, which that's the idea of Shaul. So based on this, we'll understand more the connection of Machar Chodesh when that union take place. And because what's Machar Chodesh? Which means through the fact that you have Machar Chodesh means tomorrow, but today's before. So through the fact that you have the concealment of the moon on Erev Rosh Chodesh. So on Rosh Chodesh you have, once the concealment is done, you have the union of the sun and the moon, because the acceptance of the moon, which means when it gets concealed until there's nothing left in the moon, it reaches level of Keter above Ashtalshlus, and from there it comes down through Bina, the power to create the unification of the sun and the moon. And the same thing also, that's in terms of Rosh Chodesh. The same thing also, that through the fact that the place of King David is missing, means Malchus is missing, so then you can have an Ifkadat of David, he's going to remember through Shaul, which means bringing down Bina, which we said before, Shaul comes from Rechoyves Hanar, and then you're going to bring down from the level of Kesser, and that will create the union. So that's the spiritual connection between Machar Chodesh and the story with Shaul and King David. Rabbi says, 1 second, we have to understand. The Kadata, which basically means you're going to be remembered, and also Pekida, which is basically unification, and also the idea of Yipakid, you're going to be missing, is basically missing. There's two opposites. So how is it possible that through Yipakid, something that's missing, you're going to be remembered? Now, even though that when the pocket meshavacha, knows the seed is missing, which we said is connected to the idea of bittul acceptance, and when you have a bittul, you reach keser, and then through keter you have the power to unify. But the fact is, this that we're saying that you pocket meshavacha, that means that literally the seed is missing; it's empty. And so what comes out from there, that the fact that the seed is empty, that's the reason. In the emptiness, what creates the remembrance. Venefkada ki pakar mishracha. In other words, it's not like that through the acceptance, so something else happens. No, but he's saying is that it actually is connected to the two. So the question is, how is it possible that literally the missing part, the missing creates nifkadata? That's question number one. Also, we have to understand, this study says Yipakid Machshvecha, and it doesn't say Yechzer, it's going to be missing. It's an idea of Pekid of a different expression. So what comes out from it that Yipakid and Nifkadata, not that through the Yipakid, through the bittul, you get to the level of acceptance, but literally in the Yipakid itself, in the concealment you have, and Nifkadata, you actually have the revelation. So he continues on to explain the Chassidic discourse that Yehonatan is spelled Yud Hey Vav Nun Saf final nun. So Yehonatan is actually two words, Yud Hey Vav, and then Nasan. What does that mean? So he brings a powerful teaching from Eiyer that says that Nasan, the numerical value for Nasan is Nun is 50, Saf is 400, and Nun is 50. That's 500. So the 500 is actually the last Hey, the last 5 of Hashem's name, because Hey, if you break it out, 5 to 500, you can get to 5,000. 5 go to 50, you go to 500. So you have Yud Hey Vav, Yehonas and Yud Hey Vav, and the Nasan, which is 500, is really the Hey. So you have Hashem's name. So he continues on to explain the Chassidic discourse that according to the explanation in most places, that Yehonasan is again Yud Hey Vav, and Nasan of Yonasan is the Yud Hey and the Vav Hey together, which basically is you're drawing in, you're drawing it in. Nasan's the idea of drawing it in. So now we'll understand what it says by Yomer Loy Yehonasan, which means that it's drawing in from Yehonasan into David, which means that the Yud Hey Vav Hey of Yonasan comes into Malchus, into King David. That's what's explained in many places. But according to the insight of what we just learned, the Ma'ar, that Nasan of Yonasan is the last letter of Hashem's name, which is Malchus. So what does it mean by Yomer Loy? That Yonasan is telling Yonasan to David. But the fact is, it's technically the same thing. You know, Yehonasan means that he's giving into the Hay itself, and what's the idea that he's giving to someone else? He's giving it in within the Yehonasan, you have it. And he explains that in Malchus actually there's two levels. Again, to clarify, Yehonasan means Yud Hey Vav Hey goes into the Hay, which is Malchus. Here we're saying it's going to King David. So he explains that in Malchus there's two levels. You have on one hand Malchus, which is the end of the world of Atzilus. Like, use the expression, the tail of a lion, so it's the end of the world of Atzilus. But then you have the component of Malchus, which is the source of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah, which is called like the head, so to speak, of a fox. And that's the difference between Nasan, and Yehonasan to David, that Nasan, which is basically is the last letter of Hashem's name, that's the component where Malchus is the end of Atzilus, and then you have David, which is Malchus, where it's with source of Bias. If according to where it's Yud Hey Vav Hey and Nasan, where it's connected, that's Malchus, the end of Atzilus. And then when it goes over to King David, it's where Malchus comes a source of Bias. And what does that mean by Yomer La Yonasan, which basically is drawing in Malchus the way it's in Atzilus. You know, the Nasan, the last Hay, and the same thing also drawing Yud Hey Vav Hey into Malchus, basically is the source of the way Malchus is the source of Bria Yitzir Asiyah. And he continues on to explain the Chassidic discourse that these two levels of Malchus, the way Malchus is the end of Atzilus, the way Malchus is the source of Bria Yitzir Asiyah, is that's where it's Malchus is called in some places Yam, the sea, and Aretz, the earth. What is Yam? Yam is the expression of Malchus, the way it's in the world of Atzilus. And in there, what gets drawn in, the spheres of the Zer Ampin, which is all the 6 spheres, which is above Malchus. And like we know, all the channels come to the sea, and through the fact that Malchus receives everything from a higher in it, and it gets concealed in it, just like the sea, that everything that once you goes in there, everything gets concealed into it, and through that, the next part is when Malchus becomes a source for everything that's created afterwards, which is basically Aretz. So Yam is the way Malchus is to the higher level. Aretz is when it goes out to give off life force to the earth should grow, and trees should grow, etc. And then he explains over there, that's why he says, Yomer La Yonasan is like to go ahead and transform from the sea into the dry land, which took place when they split the sea. And it was besides the fact that to draw down Malchus the way it's in the world of Atzilus, Yud Hey Vav, and Nasan is the last one, which is the last letter of Hashem's name, but it comes also into the level of Malchus, where it comes a source for Bria Yitzir Asiyah, King David, and that happens by what? Transforming the sea into dry land, which what gets broken is the sea, the concealment, and what gets revealed is Atzilus of Malchus, the way it's on its own. And he continues on the Chassidic discourse to explain that after King David received, and he received from Yonatan. In other words, what he received is the essence of the light of Atzilus. So then he told him, V'shilashta tered moed. So what does he explain? What does V'shilashta mean? So he explains, according to Kabbalah, is that Shilashta, it's 3 dots. You should make the level of a segol. What we know in the vowels, there's a kamas, there's a patak, there's a segol. What's a segol? It's 3 dots. What is the 3 dots referring to? The 3 dots is referring to the spiritual work of transformation. Another way, Malchus comes down into the world to transform the world. And once you do the job of transforming, then V'shilashta, on a different translation of Segulta, which means in Segulta there's also the 3 dots. In the level of 1, you become something very, very special. In other words, like it says, Vayisam li Skula. You're going to be a special nation from amongst all the nations. It's by doing the avoid of transformation, the 3 dots, then you become the special people that you are. So seemingly he explained, what he says is, that's why Yonatan called King David, V'shilashta tered me'oid. In other words, when you're going to go down to the level of segel, which means to transform the world, you're going to be elevated to the level of skula, and that's the general idea that what he told him, ונפקדת, that you're going to be remembered because you're going to be missing. In other words, through the fact that you're going to be missing. What does that mean missing? You're going to go down and you're going to get concealed. That's the way you're going to be remembered. In other words, but first he told them in general, and then he told them more in detail. That in the detail, v'shilashta, and you're going to go down very, very low, and you're going to sit by the stone, which means you're going to go down to the physical world, and both in terms of the elevation, that v'shilashta, you're going to go and you're going to reach what? The most highest levels. Rabbi says we have to understand. The beginning of the Haftarah of Machar Chodesh says, Vayomer lo Yonasan. Yonasan comes and tells King David. So there is seemingly, what's the essence of the Haftarah of Machar Chodesh? That in order to have the birth of the new moon, which basically is Malchus, so you have to have an Rosh Chodesh, you have to have the concealment. Yipakid Mosbech, it has to be missing. Tered Moed, you're going to go down very low by the stone, etc. But the idea of Yomer Yonis and Yonis is coming to tell him in the beginning, on the contrary, the whole thing of Malchus, which is the source of Biyah, which in there shines the Malchus of Atzilus and also the Midas of Zah. So what's the whole idea is that the part that's missing. What's the whole idea of Yomer Yonasan? Yonasan is all about drawing in heavy light, and here we're focusing on the concealment part. Rabbi explains, the point of the explanation is that in order that it should be, the goal is it should be mosbech, to create the empty space, and through the emptiness you're going to have the remembrance. In order for that to happen, you need to have a drawing down from on high. What does that mean? And that's why in the beginning of Torah it says, before we start saying Machar Chodesh, it says Vayomer Yehonatan. Because the first thing Hashem gives us right away what we need. He gives us the power we need. The first thing is that in Malchus comes in, and Malchus, the way it's a source, going to be later a source of Yah. The first thing you need to have energy. You need to have a full fuel tank. So the first thing that Hashem gives, Vayomer Yehonatan, He brings in the light of Atzilus. And after Hashem gives you what you need, then you can be Machar Chodesh. Then you can have the emptiness. Then you can go down to the level where it's concealed. And then you're missing, and it's empty. Erev Rosh Chodesh, Machar Chodesh, and then you have a Rosh Chodesh ונפקדת. So even though, again, yes, Yerida, Tzarech Aliyah, before the Yerida, you need a full tank, and that's why it says, Vayomer Yehonatan first. And based on we know, the tremendous specific details in the Chassidic discourses of the Chabad Rebbeim, and also in reference to the things that were said and when they were said, you can say that this idea of drawing in Vayomer Yehonatan that was said in Erev Rosh Chodesh is similar to where we said that the sea was transformed into dry land. And when is that underscored? That's underscored specifically on Erev Rosh Chodesh, when the Rosh Chodesh, the month of Sivan, the time that they said this Chassidic discourse. Why is that? That was said specifically in the Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. And he explains, we'll understand the base of what's explained elsewhere in reference to the 3 months of Nisan, Iyer, and Sivan. And the reason that these 3 months, specifically these 3 months, they mention going out of Egypt. So, for example, the verse in the Torah says Chodesh Aviv, that we went out of Egypt, referring to the month of Nisan. It was the Echad, and then it says Echad L'Chodesh Sheni, the first and the second month. And the second year we left Egypt. So again, you see in reference to Eir, it says going out of Egypt. And then Chodesh HaShlishi, the month of Sivan, let's say the 3rd month of going out of Egypt. So you see that all 3 months are connected to going out of Egypt, Nisan, Eir, and Sivan, because the ultimate purpose of leaving Egypt is, which is basically the first one, leaving Egypt in the month of Nisan. The ultimate purpose is Matan Torah, which is the month of Sivan, and the month of Eir, which is counting the Omer, and that's the bond between leaving Egypt and going and receiving the Torah. So the going out of Egypt, there's 3 components. It's Nisan, we left. Eir is counting the spheres of Omer, and the ultimate goal, receiving the Torah, Matan Torah, on the month of Sivan. So based on this, Rabbi says we can explain that what's explained in the Chassidic discourse by Yomer Yehonatan. Yehonatan tells him tomorrow's Chodesh. It's like transforming the sea to the dry land. It's like what it says, because this was said on Shabbos of Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which is the 3rd month, and since the month of Sivan and also the month of Eir come as a continuation of going out of Egypt, so therefore on Erev Rosh Chodesh of these months, it's more underscored the idea of a Yomer Yehonatan. Yehonatan said, which is basically connected to a splitting of the sea, which is basically the completion of going out of Egypt. Now, as you can say that these 3 ideas of these 3 months, in other words, month of Nisan leaving Egypt, the month of Eir counting the Omer, and the month of Sivan receiving the Torah, is similar to the 3 components in this Haftarah where it says Yomer Yehonatan. Yehonatan told him, which basically is the revelation on high. Venefkדת, you can remember it. Ki yipaked mosbech, because your chair is missing. And the Rebbe explains like this: going out of Egypt. How did we leave Egypt in the month of Nisan? That was Hashem gave us a gift. He took us out. That's similar to Yomer Yehonatan. And like we mentioned before, that the drawing down of Yomer Yehonatan is just like the splitting of the sea, which basically is the completion of going out of Egypt. Then you have the counting of the Omer, which means where the godly soul goes down and gets involved with the animal soul in order to transform the emotions of the animal soul. Like the pocket Mosbech, your chair is going to be missing. V'shilashta, you're going to do the Teir Mud, you're going to go in and transform everything, which is the month of Eir. And then you have the revelation in the month of Sivan, of Matan Torah, which comes after the transformation of the Spheres Omer, which is much higher than the revelation that took place on leaving Egypt, and even splitting the sea. Just like, for example, Venefkדת, you're going to remember it after Yipaked mosbech, which is much higher than Yehonatan told in the beginning. So basically, Yomer Yehonatan is the revelation high, it's huge. Then you do the work, and then remembering is much higher than the original gift. So based on this, Rabbi says you can say that in Erev Chodesh Sivan, the emphasis of a Yomer Yonasan, even though technically it's connected to the first month, is mainly because when you draw in Vayomer Yonasan, which is basically drawing in, gives the power of that you're going to be remembered, which is basically the second level of Segulta, which is basically the specialness of a Shilashta. And like it's explained in the Chassidic discourse, the connection of Vishilashta Tered Ma'oid, you're going to go down with the idea of splitting in the sea, where Yomer Yonasan, because what does it mean Vishilashta Tered Ma'oid, and you're going to sit by the rock, is because the idea is of the specialness which comes through the transformation. It should come down in the physical world, up until where it's totally revealed. The idea of splitting the sea, that comes down to the lowest level, as we know that on the sea, what a maidservant saw, no one even saw, and Erev Chodesh, Eir. The emphasis of Yom Yom is mainly gives us the power of Yipakid Moshebecha, the part that's missing, which is basically the idea of the segel of Vishilashta, which is basically the transformation of the sparks. He'd like to connect this, what the Tzemach writes in his writings on Psalms, in reference to the Psalm where it says, Lamnatseach beneginois, mizmar shir. That we say after Sfiras HaOmer, there's a prayer that we say. So over there we say Lamantseach beneginois mizmar shir. So the Tzemach Tzedek brings from the Al-Shach. The Al-Shach teaches us that this psalm is referring to about Mashiach comes, and over there we're going to have two components. What's the two components? When Mashiach comes, we're going to have a Shefa Brochos Tov Yisrael, a tremendous flow of blessings for the Jewish people. And like it says, Elokim Yechanenu V'Yarchenu, God's going to bestow us with graciousness and a lot of blessings, and Hashem's name is going to be sanctified in the world. Like it says, Ki Sishbot Amin Mishar. And that's why in the beginning of the psalm it says Mizmar Shir. Mizmar is referring to the first component, and the Shir is on the second component. The one is the tremendous blessings, and the second part is what? That Hashem is going to be revealed in the world. And after the Tzemach Tzedek brings the words of the Al-Shach, he also brings what the Alter writes in the Kutei Torah, and the Chassidic discourse that starts Mizmar Shechon Sabayis, that Mizmar is the song that the angels sing, and Shir is a song of the Neshama. So Mizmar is the song of the angels, and Shir is a song of the souls. And just seemingly you can say that the intent of the Al-Shach, that Mizmar is on the first idea, which we said is about the tremendous blessings for the Jewish people, and Shir is the second component, where basically Hashem is going to be revealed, is based on the Chassidic discourse, and like we know that the Arizal that said on him that his soul was from the world of Drush. But based on what the Alter explains in the Kutei Torah, based on the Kabbalistic ideas, that Mizmar is the song of the angels, and Shir is the song of the souls. You can say that Mizmar is connected more to the idea of the fact that Hashem is going to be revealed in the world, because the flow to the nations of the world come from the angels, the 70 officers, and Shir is more connected to the idea of the physical blessings that the Jewish people are going to receive. So that Tzemach Tzedek continues on in his writings, and he says the reason why we say this psalm after Sfiras HaOmer, because what's Sfiras HaOmer? We're transforming our 7 emotions of the animal soul, and we know the source of the animal soul comes from the animals in the chariot, and the angels, which is Mizmar, and by transforming the animal soul, what we actually elevate the godly soul as well, the idea of Shir. And you can say that this psalm, which is referring to the transformation of the nations, literally, after Sfiras HaOmer, which is basically talking about transforming our emotions of the animal soul, the Jewish people, because when we transform the emotions of the animal soul, we also elevate the whole world. And based on this, we understand why an Erev Chodesh Iyar, which is basically the month of Sfiras HaOmer, the whole month of Iyar we do the Sfiras HaOmer, is underscored the segel of Vishilashta, which basically is referring to the transformation of all the nations of the world, which brings us that we should be Vayisum Lizgula, we're going to be the special nation to Hashem. Now, just like when it comes to counting Omer, that by elevating the animal soul, mizmor, so we elevate the godly soul, shir. The same thing also when it comes to the days of Mashiach. That mizmor is referring to, as we said, the psalm is referring to when Mashiach comes, that when Hashem's name is going to be sanctified in the world, by through that, the Jewish people are going to receive much greater blessings. Even though that when it comes to the transformation, but through transformation, and through the transformation you receive the revelation, which is now, and when Mashiach comes, we're going to draw down the revelation which comes after the transformation. But nevertheless, that through the fact that and Hashem's name is going to be sanctified in the world, what's going to happen is we're going to add more in the drawing down and the revelation to the Jewish people compared to the drawing down which is going to be through the transformation that takes place now. And that's why this psalm, Mizmor Shir, and it says Mizmor before Shir, even though it's referring to the days of coming Mashiach, and Mizmor is more connected to the fact that Hashem is going to be revealed, because then when Mashiach comes, first you're going to have Mizmor, and through that you're going to have the addition of Shir. And that's why in these verses, after the first verse, it says, Elokim Yechanenu, God is going to bestow upon us Yechenu, He's going to bless us. And it says before Hashem is going to be known in the world, you can say, because since the whole reason, the intent of the world is for the Jewish people, so it's self-understood that the main purpose of coming of Mashiach is that there's going to be a tremendous flow spiritually and physically for the Jewish people. However, the completion of the flow to the Jewish people is going to come through the fact that Hashem is going to be sanctified in the world, and that's why it says Elokim Yechanenu V'Yirchenu. Hashem is going to bestow upon us, and He's going to bless us, and He's going to shine upon us the light. And it says that before Hashem is going to be acknowledged in the world. And like the Rebbe says, based on what it's known, in reference to the soul and the body, besides the fact that the revelation of godliness that comes to the soul by us learning Torah and doing mitzvahs when we're in a body is much greater than the revelation that for the soul received before it came down to this world. So the same thing also when it comes to the revelation by doing the work of learning Torah and doing mitzvahs in our physical body. When is that going to be? That's going to be mainly when the soul's going to be resurrected, in Hebrew, when the soul's going to be in the body, because that's the ultimate transformation. Now, even though that the revelation in the Garden of Eden, after the soul leaves the body, is much higher than the revelation of Garden of Eden before it came down to this world. Why? Because the revelation of the Garden of Eden after it comes down to the body and it leaves the body is because it has the upgrade that it learned Torah and did mitzvahs in a physical body. But nevertheless, the main revelation of the work of Torah and mitzvahs is going to be when we're going to have the dead is going to be resurrected, when the soul is going to be in the body. And like it's self-understood from Tchias Meisim itself, and the resurrection of the dead itself, that that all the Jewish people are going to stand up and be resurrected, even the souls that are in the Garden of Eden several thousand years, and 3 times a day they go from one level to the next level. But nevertheless, when Mashiach comes, those souls, every soul is going to come back in the body, because the revelation that's going to take place in the world of the resurrection of the dead is much higher than the revelation that takes place in the world of Gan Eden, even on the highest levels. There's nothing like the revelation that takes place in the souls in the body. Why is that? Never explained like this: that the upgrade and the superiority of the work of the soul when it's in the body compared to the work of the soul before it came down. So there's 2 explanations in general. Point number 1, that when the soul serves Hashem, even when it's in a body, in a physical body, so what gets revealed is its real strength in its connection with Hashem. That even the concealment and the hiddenness of the physical body and the animal soul could not nullify, God forbid, and even to make any weakness in the connection we have with Hashem. And how much more so when the soul in this world not only does what it has to, technically, it does all the mitzvahs and it learns Torah, etc., but it does it in a way with tremendous love. The expression we use is avarabba, tremendous love, above logic. There's love with logic, but then there's a love without logic. Like the love, there he gives an example of a child to a parent. And by not only doing everything, but doing it with love, so what gets revealed is the tremendous power of the connection that it has with Hashem. That's coming from the essence of the soul, the way it's connected in its source with the infinite part of Hashem. Just like a son that's connected to his father, to the brain of his father. Because in reference to the soul, the way it's not silos, the high level, which basically like a child which comes from the brain of the father, and it comes down to this physical world, a bria, yitzira, asiya, and how much more so it comes down to the materialistic physical world. So what happens is it gets concealed. And matter of fact, we know that only neshamas atzilas are called banim. But nevertheless, when it comes down to this world, it's a son in a revealed place. Because the love that this child has for its father, the love that we have for Hashem, is beyond logic. Much like a child's love for a parent. How does that happen? Because it reveals the essence of the soul, the way it's in the intellect of the father before it came down. And on this level, Atzilus and Biyah, it's all equal. Because you're connecting to the deepest level. And to add, Rabbi says that the main revelation of this level, knows that the soul, the way it's connected to the essence of Hashem, how does that happen? It happens by doing the work, transforming and refinement of the body and the animal soul in this world. Because this that the body and the animal soul cannot conceal the love of the soul that it has, which is above logic. Why is that? Why can't the body not allow the love to come out, and the love penetrates it all? Because the essence of the infinite part of Hashem, and that's where the soul is connected, is all over. And therefore nothing could take that away. And the power that the soul has to transform and to refine the body and the animal soul and to make it a vessel for godliness is because the essence of the infinite part of Hashem, that's where the soul is sourced, is not limited to anything. And therefore even the body and the animal soul, from their perspective, is not a vessel for godliness, but by bringing out the power of the essence, it becomes a vessel for godliness. That's point number one. Another explanation of the superiority of the work of the soul when it's in the body, because now we're going deeper, because the source of the body is higher than the source of the soul. Because in reference to the soul it says, we're sons of Hashem. So therefore the love and the connection of Hashem to the Jewish people from the soul is like the love of a parent to a child. In other words, it's from a place where there's a relationship. Yeah, there's a father and a child. But it's not the essence. However, the love and the connection that Hashem has to the Jewish people from the body, it's not because something special about the body. And not even because the son, etc. It's because Hashem chose the body with total free choice. Where does free choice come from? Essence. And when the soul works in this world with its body, so in the soul what gets plugged into the soul? The choosing of the essence. In other words, according to the first explanation, the elevation that happens to the soul by doing its work in the body is because it's revealing its source in the essence of Hashem. Just like a son which is connected to the brain of the father. According to the second, when the soul does the work in here, it's something new. You're actually bringing the essence of Hashem higher than a source, the way it's when it's father's brain. In the first explanation, fine, you're connecting to the source. Second, no, you're bringing something new into the soul. The soul doesn't have, the body has it, and you're transforming from the body into the soul. And you can say that the soul serves Hashem in the body is something new happens, higher than its source. Because the choosing that Hashem chooses the Jewish people, it's not only in the body of the Jewish people, but also in the soul. And the fact that the souls are children of Hashem, because Hashem chose that. But in the soul, you also have the component where it's a son, which basically the choosing is concealed. But when the soul and the body unite and they serve Hashem, so then you're choosing in the essence of Hashem. And that gets revealed in the soul itself. Now, from the difference between these two explanations, according to the first explanation, so the body is almost like a middleman. That through the body, what gets revealed is the source of the soul. So therefore you can say, after it does its work in the body, So what gets revealed? The source of the soul. So therefore the soul doesn't need the body anymore. The body introduced it to its source. So once you introduced me, well, I have my own shidduch. But according to the second explanation, even the revelation that comes to the soul by working within the body, you're bringing in the fact that Hashem chose, and what He chose specifically, the body. So therefore the revelation that takes place through learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, where's that going to be? When the soul's going to be resurrected. When the soul's going to be in the body. And you need a body for that. So according to the second insight, it's not that it's a matchmaker. No, the body is the one that actually makes it happen. And therefore, when is the greatest revelation going to happen? Tchias HaMeisim. He'd like to connect this with what's known, that we know in the future it says that the soul is going to actually feed off the body. Because the revelation that's going to happen when Mashiach comes in the future is bringing in the choosing that Hashem chose specifically the body. So based on this, we now will understand what is explained before in the Chassidic discourse Kimei Tzeischov of Achron Shel Pesach, that the verse compares the future redemption to going out of Egypt. Like it says the verse says clearly, Kimei Tzeischov Eretz Yisrael, looks like going out of Egypt. I'm going to show you the wonders in the future it connects it to, is referring to all the components of going out of Egypt. Also, the tremendous treasures that we received when we went out of Egypt. And just like all the ideas of the future redemption is going to be in a much higher level than when we went out of Egypt, and like the famous explanation, Arenu Neflois, that the wonders that's going to be in the future when Mashiach comes is going to be wonders even compared to the tremendous wonders of going out of Egypt. The same thing also applies to the tremendous richness and wealth and treasures which can happen when Mashiach comes, which is going to be much greater than the treasures that when we went out of Egypt. And it's like understood from what the Chazal tell us that Yosef HaTzadik hid 3 treasures in Egypt. And one of them is hidden for the righteous people in the future, when Mashiach comes. And obviously, we must take it literally, that the treasure that was hidden for the righteous people when Mashiach comes, it also has to be, there's silver and there's gold there. And not only that, in the days of Mashiach, we know it says that the Madana Matsuyin Kafra, there's going to be treats just like you have sand, that's how much treats you have, like the Rama writes. So the Rebbe says, 1 second. We all know the coming of Mashiach, what's going to be when Mashiach comes, Malar, Hashem, the whole world's going to be full of godliness, Kamayim El Mechasim, and therefore who cares about physical stuff? Who cares about materialism? And what are we going to be busy with? The whole world's going to be busy to know Hashem. So who cares about all these treasures? The Rebbe explains, he said you can say the explanation is at this that the body gets enjoyment from physical things. The body wants physical stuff, treats, riches, etc., because these things are connected to the body from its internal aspect. Not only because of the physical part, but from the internal part. So therefore, through the tremendous treasures and through these tremendous treats, what's going to happen is we're actually going to add in knowing Hashem, just like the soul receives from the body. Now, there is explained in many places that this is the source of the body is higher than the source of the soul, because the soul in the body is just compared to a light in a vessel. And the source of the vessel is higher than the source of the light. And just like by drawing down and bringing in the light into the vessel, so what happens is it's not just the vessel has light in there, but the light gets elevated. The same thing also with the soul in the body, that when the soul comes down into the body, the soul gets elevated to a higher level than before it came down. And based on it's known that the creation of the world is for the Jewish people, what is the intent? The intent is not only the physical world, but all the revelations in the world. So you can say that the internal reason that the source of the vessel is higher than the source of light, and through the vessel, not only it's higher and that will elevate the light, because the intent of the light in the vessel is for the Jewish people, because through them we should draw in the soul and the body. And since the source of the body is higher than the source of the soul, because we said the body was chosen by the essence of Hashem, so therefore the light in the vessel was created in such a way that the source of the vessel is higher than the source of light. However, when you're dealing with the soul and the body, this is the source of the body is higher than the source of the light. That's because in the body, you have Bechiras, the essence of Hashem chooses, which is a free choice, and it's not because the body is anything special. However, when it comes to light and vessels, this is the source of the vessel. Is higher than the source of light. It has to do with the fact that vessels are very powerful. And the same thing also happens with the soul and the body, which comes from it. That this is the source of the soul. The body is higher. Is also talking about not only the fact that Hashem chose it, but also there's a qualitative advantage in the body. So based on he said, he liked to explain on the reason that the upgrade that takes place through the fact that the world, the nations of the world are being transformed, that they receive from the angels, which the source is the vessels, is also going to be when Mashiach comes, like we learned before. Why? Because that the vessels, through the vessels, there's actually an upgrade in the light, and that's because the true source of the light and the vessels, the light and the vessel, is the soul and the body. And just like the elevation that takes place in the soul, which happens through the body, it's not only when the soul works in the body, so it gets elevated to a higher level. But even the elevation of what's going to take place in the future when Mashiach comes is that the soul is literally going to benefit and nurture and be satiated from the body. The same thing also, this upgrade of the vessel, and the same thing also from the angels, which basically is the source of the vessels, and the same thing also the upgrade that's going to happen through the transformation of the nation of the world that they're going to receive from the angels, that this is also going to take place when Mashiach comes. And through the fact the whole world is going to recognize godliness, it's going to add actually into the tremendous blessings for the Jewish people. Now, it's known that the soul wants to come down to this world, to obviously to give life force to the body, is because the soul feels and recognizes the quality of body from its source. That the source of the body is much higher than the source of the soul, and therefore it wants to give the body what it needs. And this so that's why it wants to come there. But one second, the fact is we know it says in Chazal, against your will you're going to live. And since why? Because the will of the soul is to give the body energy. It's not because it wants to, because it realizes the source of the body, and that's why it's called against its will. So it wants to come down to give it, but why does it want to give it? Because it realizes that it has tremendous power, and therefore it's forced to do it. And therefore you can say that the soul feels the source of the body. Even though this feeling has nothing to do with the soul, and we see that the fact is that it wants to do it, it's being forced to do it, is because in order for that the soul should want to give the body what it needs, so what happens is it gets revealed the source of the body. Now, even though on its own, even when from its source, it has no connection, but it's revealed to it, so it should want to do a job. And by revealing the source of the body, which is in the soul, in a way that it's almost against its will before it comes down, so therefore it becomes like a vessel for the revelation of the source of the body, which comes into it after it does its work with the body. But the same thing also when it comes to lights and vessels, that this, through the fact that the light comes into the vessel, what gets drawn into it is the source of the vessel, because before it even comes into the vessel, it realizes the power of the source of the vessel that's much stronger. And you can say the same thing also in reference to Sphira Sa'imah and Matan Torah. The fact that the godly soul came down to this world to transform the emotions and the animal souls, Yipakid Moshevecha. It came to do its job. So what gets revealed, what comes in there is the revelation of Matan Torah, which comes through the transformation. Because when the soul comes down to transform the animal soul, it comes after the revelation of we went out of Egypt. And by having the revelation coming out of Egypt, what it feels before it even goes down, it realizes the real power of transformation, because when we left Egypt, we received the tremendous wealth, and we realized this real power, obviously, in the materialism. And that's why it says, it starts with Yoina says tomorrow is Chodesh. Venifkדת, you can remember ki yipaked moshevecha. Why is that? Because in order that through the fact that it's missing, you should be able to be remembered, is by bringing in by Yomer, like we learned before, which is basically just like when we left Egypt and they split the sea. We realized before we even went down to do our spiritual work, we realized the real power and transformation, and that's why it says Venifkדת ki yipaked moshevecha. In other words, what does that mean? That the connection of Yipaked missing to Venefkanta is remembered as not only because of the acceptance in missing, but even more and deeper that the Yipaked, the missing itself. Why? Because the elevation of the soul by going down into the body, not because what gets revealed is the soul, the acceptance. No, but going down is because the body itself. And the same thing also ונפקדת, it happens what? From the יפקד מושבך, and the fact that it's empty. And it says ונפקדת, you're going to remember כי יפקד מושבך. Now יפקד is the same letters as ונפקדת. Besides the fact that yipaked, by missing, you come to remembered, but even in the missing itself, you have the ונפקדת. Why? Because when you come down to you go down to yipaked mishvech where it's lacking, and it comes after the introduction of Yom, so you feel even in the downgrade, you already know the value of transformation, but the real revelation only comes afterward yipaked mishvech, and that's what happened on the next day after Rosh Chodesh. The same thing also about the revolutionary idea of the Jewish people when Mashiach comes, and like we know it's going to be totally transformed. That even on Erev Rosh Chodesh, in the last moments before the redemption, what gets revealed is something of that powerful light of redemption, both on the spiritual level, which we all know we have the revelation of Pnimius Torah, Kabbalah, Chassidus, like we're learning right now, in the way that Yefutzuman and Chutza, where Chassidus is spread out all over the world, and also in reference to the tremendous wealth and the tremendous treasures which is going to be in the future when Mashiach comes, that all the Jewish people are going to have now, Parnasa Bar Chava, sustenance with a tremendous abundance up to the point of wealth. And from this we're going to come to the redemption, and we're going to have both components in full completion, that goodness is going to be all over the place, and all the treasures is going to be all over, and how much more so in reference to the spiritual stuff, like it says, Mallah ha'aretz deyas Hashem kamayim amachasim, that the world is going to be full with knowing Hashem, just like the water covers over everything. So here we have another powerful Chassidic discourse about the process of, obviously, the revelation always comes first. We have what we need, then we do our work, and then the prize is obviously much greater. The whole idea of the power of the body and what's going to happen when Mashiach comes with Tchias HaMesim. So let's hope and pray, like the Rebbe finishes off, it says, we're going to have Kamayim Al-Mechasim at the coming of Mashiach, and next class will be in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Have a great and blessed week. Shavua Tov.